Are we rolling?
Yeah.
How about we'll cue the intro music? Obviously, we don't record these live and then do them. We actually are recording in the past. You're watching in the future, or you're watching us in the past. I don't know how that works. But so this is the first week of January.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure when we're going to put this one out, although we could put it out first. I don't know. But I kind of I wanted to tackle a little bit of that whole New Year's resolution, goal setting, goal orientation. I don't know. Do you do resolutions?
It's bullshit.
Yeah. Okay. So why? What? How so?
You unbeknownst to you, you're probably starting a rant that's going to last a good portion of this.
That's
podcast.
fine. Let her rip.
So, I don't believe in them. Two things I hate are New Year's resolutions and bucket lists.
Okay.
I think they're the same thing.
Fair.
And I think they're ridiculous.
Okay.
Number one is that people tend to make these things because, number one, it sounds good.
Right.
And they want to appear cool. Like, what's your New Year's resolution? Like, I'm going to hike the Himalayas.
Right.
Like, you're not fucking hiking the Himalayas unless you are. And then that's totally awesome. And if that's what you're going to do and you've got a plan, great, all the power to you. But if you're doing something like my bucket list is, hike the Himalayas, I'm going to star, aside Will Smith in a movie and I'm going to, buy a brand new sports car and all these kind of things. Like, the vast majority of these things are completely unattainable or unsustainable,
Right.
And I mean, it even goes like, I'm not saying that, everybody that says I'm going to lose weight, and I'm saying this as I'm getting a delivery of an exercise bike dropped off, so there's a little bit of hypocritical there, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's like people, they're not invested in these things a lot of times, right? I mean, I believe in setting goals and goal, setting and reaching targets, but usually those are attainable things or they have plans attached to them. They're not just, sort of an arbitrary thing that, after midnight, after you kissed, if you're, your significant other, or if you're by yourself, the random person that you managed to hook up with at that moment,
the prom
which
queen
is
or something.
probably a bigger, plan attached to that than the New Year's resolution that you're going to make. Ultimately at the end of the day, I don't think you put a lot of thought into it. It's just kind of like you feel you have to, or you feel, like it's just, you have to say that,
Right.
And for me, that's already, you're going to fail.
For sure, just by making it.
Yeah, just by doing it, by putting it out there. It's like, I have to. What's your New Year's resolution? You go back to wherever you work, and it's what's your New Year's resolution?
Yeah.
What's your New Year's resolution? A lot of times I say I don't have one. Like, I've got things that I'm working on, but those were in place well before New Year's, and I've been
working on them for months.
Yeah, so
whatever it happens to be.
I think it's better to enact a change and make plans and do things that are attainable. I mean, it's not bad, again, if you want to hike the Himalayas or you want to star in your own movie or whatever the case may be, it's not bad to have those goals.
Sure.
However, you should have some sort of plan to execute those.
To get them.
And that's why I cannot stand either bucket lists or New Year's resolutions, because I think really, and especially in this day of social media, and I know you're not on Facebook anymore, but I mean, it just gets bombarded with that stuff. You put, here's my New Year's resolution list. Six of those 10 items are just so you look cool.
Right.
But that's it. That's all you're doing it for. You're not doing it because you have any plans on doing it. They're not attainable. They're not realistic. You're just doing it because you think that people watching and looking at your stream think that, you're cool because of it. Oh, that's really cool. I wish I was going to do that. Well, it doesn't matter because neither of you are going to do that.
Nobody's going to do it. Yeah.
I may sound a little bit harsh in what I'm saying, but I mean, I think it's the reality of it.
I agree with you. Yeah. Number one. And I kind of mostly wanted to use it as a jumping off point in terms of just goal setting in general. Yeah. I think the new year is a good time to reflect on the past year, kind of see the successes that you've had, the goals that you did achieve, if you set out to achieve them, and if not, the successes that you had that happened by accident or by design, whatever it happens to be. And then kind of put some thought and into foresight into your year, forecasting, if you will. Businesses do it. whether you're a small business, big business, a gigantic business, whatever, you know, they talk about, okay, well, this year in sales, we want to achieve this. We want to achieve, you know, this new product launch. We want to hire this many people. We want to get this person.
But the irony in that is a lot of that doesn't start January 1st for businesses.
No, it's
and that's what I mean.
April
like it's, you know, when what you're talking about, again, it comes down to, you know, sort of planning and forecasting and what you want to do. I mean, those are goals that are set.
Yes.
You know, you won't see a business, you know, it's like, okay, last year we did, you know, $50,000 in sales. They're not going to say we want to do $500 million in sales. Right. Yeah. You know, they're not going to unrealistically do that. And absolutely. I feel if businesses made bucket lists, you know, they would do stuff like that. It's like, we want $500 million in sales. We want, you know, Will Smith and Jack Black to be our corporate, you know, representatives.
Sure, of course.
You know, and again, completely unattainable. They're not going to do that because, you know, these are smart people running a business, you know, looking to move it forward.
Yeah, well, and you know, I think that we can, you know, take a lesson from business, right? Because if you look at your life, whether you're an entrepreneur or a self-made creative individual, you know, whether it happens to be, you know, art, music, photography, podcast, like whatever it happens to be, you know, you're a brand, you know, and a brand, what is a brand other than a business, an entity that's designed to make money? And even if you don't have that, if it's just you and your wife and you both work jobs, or you and your partner, if we want to be politically correct, whatever orientation those people are, but like, you know, that's the corporation of the household. We have X number of dollars coming in. These are the things that we want to achieve this year. And how are we going to do it? And I think it initially started off as a good thing. You know, again, that kind of that new year, rebirth, new fresh start, you know, like that kind of thing. But it's somewhere kind of got off the hinge, you know, going back to an earlier podcast, we were talking about conversation starters. You know, it's one of those easily encapsulated things. Oh, what's your New Year's resolution? Oh, I'm going to hike the Himalayas this year. Well, that sounds amazing. I don't know if you're actually going to do it or not, you know. But for me, goal setting, and it doesn't necessarily happen on a quarterly basis. It usually goes, I like to look at, and I mean, again, maybe you tackle things, I think everybody tackles things differently, but the way I like to do it is I kind of look in like 6 month chunks. You know, here's 10 things that I'm working on right now. So like one of the things, obviously right now I have a fitness goal. You know, I achieved where I wanted to be by Christmas, and now I have a goal for April. So, you know, fitness, fat loss and muscle gain, financial stuff, i.e., you know, this amount of money I want to save to be able to put, you know, in my current circumstance, I want to save this amount of money to put as a lump sum payment to my mortgage. And I want to put this much lump sum into long-term savings, you know, so they're like real attainable things. And I can actually action them by going backwards and saying, okay, well, if I want to save, just using a number, this isn't a specific number, but let's say I want to save $500. That means I have to earn, you know, with all my other costs and everything, I have to earn 2,000. Okay, cool. So now how do I make that 2,000? Okay, well, if I'm in sales, I know that I have about a 10% uptake rate, which means I need to call 100 people to get 10 sales, which will equal my two. You know what I mean? Like, so you can actually backwards build and get the steps necessary to achieve the goals. It's not necessarily about climbing the Himalayas, right? Or starring with Will Smith in a movie. Although those would be very, very amazing goals. Like they're like shoot the moon goals. And I think sometimes at the top of a list, whatever it happens to be, I think it's important to have something that is kind of unattainable, that like you think like, oh man, I would love, that would be, you know, that's my star. You know, there's that old saying.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like I you know, when I sort of say it, like, I mean, number one, if you look at what you just talked about and you put that in a bucket list, I'm sorry, Nick, but your bucket list is boring. Right. And again, that goes back to my point, right? I mean, it's, you know, that's what I hate about them, because, you know, really that's what you're trying to attain, where what you're doing is very, very realistic and very, very much attainable. But I mean, having that star at the top, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you might have a lifetime goal, something that you've always wanted to do. And again, like saying that I don't like these things, I'm not trying to crush your lifetime dream. I'm just saying, you know, there are incremental steps. Like maybe, you know, hiking the Himalayas is your goal. You know, maybe, you know, getting to the top of Mount Yamnuska, you know, this summer is a goal that you haven't done already, which puts you closer to getting the physical fitness to get to that point. You know, all those kind of things. I mean, if you look at a guy like Gary Vaynerchuk, you know, he has his, you know, Christmas tree goal, like, you know, his giant star, and that's the New York Jets.
Right.
He wants to be the owner of the Jets.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, you know, for as, you know, interesting Gary is, and, you know, as well as he's doing with his VaynerMedia and what he's built up, he is nowhere near wealthy enough to own the Jets.
Right.
You know, and he's, you know, kind of that philosophy, give, you know, and
sure,
he'll get stuff back, you know, and I mean, his goal is going to be the Jets, and he, you know, he wants to get there. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, I think, you know, kind of in a weird kind of way, he just wants people to be happy for him if he attains that. Like, I mean,
sure,
I don't know if I'd ever want to own a professional football team, especially if you amass all that money simply to do that, because, I mean, it's a, you know, we know sports teams can be a risky business, and you can lose a ton of money. And
absolutely,
you know, the Jets are, well, the Jets, and, you know, maybe they are a little more attainable than, you know, some other franchises. You know,
exactly.
like
the
Patriots
Bears, or something.
Yeah,
or
the
Bears,
Patriots. You know, some of these, you know, legacy kind of teams. But you know, again, you know, but he, you know, he talks about that, but you know, that's not what he's doing on a day-to-day basis. You know,
no, of course
his New Year's resolution wasn't own the Jets. That's his lifetime goal. He know, you know, if he can get there, he knows he probably won't necessarily make it either.
Yeah.
Right. But, you know, he's gonna try, and if he does, it'll make him a legend.
Right.
You
yeah,
know,
that's true.
In a sense, you know, I mean, if you want to talk about building your brand, if Gary Vaynerchuk is able to, you know, step by step, incrementally go, and I mean, he's doing a whole bunch of things. Like, he's launching breakfast cereal. He's launching, you know, he launched K-Swiss shoes. He launched a new brand of wine. Where, you know, he's leveraging himself against the, you know, he's smart about that. He knows people want his time. Is what people want. So I mean, he was leveraging things like, if you buy, you know, X amount of cases of Empathy wine, which is his wine, he's like, I will give you an hour of my time.
For sure.
You know,
which is brilliant marketing.
Well, it is, because let's be honest, like, they probably don't want the wine. They want Gary's time.
Right.
But Gary's smart enough to realize that, okay, so if I buy 100 cases of Empathy wine, you know, and I have, you know, 6,000 bottles, you know, I would either have, you know, a studio full of 6,000 bottles of Empathy wine, which would be a pain in my ass.
Right.
So what am I going to do? I'm going to give them all away.
You're going to give them away, yeah.
So I'm going to give them to people. And in a sense, I'm paying for his marketing. You know, in
absolutely,
a sense, right?
100%.
And I mean, in an hour of his time, what's he going to tell you? He's probably going to tell you exactly the same things that he
preaches
he says,
always.
Yeah, he says it all the time. You know, like, this is what I do. I give it away for free. Yada yada yada. And I mean, if you watch his content, I mean, he's going to tell you what he's going to tell you anyways. So I mean, you really don't have to
there was a brilliant quote, and I've heard it a couple times, but it really hit home the other day. Somebody tweeted to Gary. It was like at Gary V, or maybe it was hashtag Gary V, something like that. But it was like spent $85,000 on an MBA in marketing, and I learned more from watching Gary V for 3 hours than I did in my entire 4 years in my master's. You know, and I think it's true. You know, whoever, you know, you're listening to, but at this day and age, and a guy like Gary is very, I think, very in touch with the new media, and very in touch with our new time and attention-based economy. There are others. I think there are others that maybe have a bit more focus on, you know, business per se, or sales specifically, or whatever. But Gary's a really good, like, kind of overarching personality about that. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing whatever you happen to put that time in. I think you're right, though, with those overarching, like, lifetime goals. And, you know, I think you can change throughout your year. You know, you could, or not your year, excuse me, but you can change throughout your life. Like, what I wanted when I was 15 is very different from what I want now. You know, or what I thought I wanted at 15, or what I think I want now. And
I mean, they'll change as well. Like, I mean, I'm sure you know people that you went to school with that's like, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be whatever they were going to be. And they go to school and they do it. And then you talk to them and they're like, yeah, I hate this.
Kind of a buddy of mine, actually, and I'm not going to mention his name, but he wanted to be an investment banker. And he did. He went to school. He was brilliant in math and with economics and all the rest of it. And he was an investment banker. And he did that up until maybe 8 or 9 years ago. And he went, this is horrendous. I hate this. He made a shit ton of money, but he wasn't happy. So he quit his job, and he lives in Vancouver, and he quit his job, and and he sells freezies on the beach that he makes with like alcohol.
Yeah.
So they're like alcoholic freezies. He sells them on the beach, and that's what he does. And I don't know if he still has his condo or whatever, but he like basically he does that during the summer, during the nice weather in Vancouver, and then the rest of the time he travels Asia. He goes to like Cambodia, Tibet, Japan, Bangkok, Hong Kong, whatever, and he has a great time and he loves it.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we just get trapped in expectations in society and what we think we need to be doing and what is expected of us, and all those kind of things, and eventually it makes a lot of people miserable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and again, going back to my bucket list of boring, but one of those items is always review your list, review your goals. Yeah. Like, are you still making choices and decisions that you're happy with? Like, is your life moving in the direction that you're wanting? And if it's not, okay, well, how do we assess it? How do we change it?
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To review and to really take stock, right? Not just, well, this was the plan and I put the plan in place and I'm on the track. And like you said, you get trapped.
Yeah.
Interesting too. I wanted to circle back and talk about the thing you were talking about with marketing with Gary Vee. Mutual friend of ours, Josh.
Yep.
Just got $1,000 or $1,500 donation on his Twitch channel during live gaming. But it got me thinking, because the name that kept popping up is this Mr. Beast guy, who I've happened across on YouTube a couple of times. I don't really watch his stuff because I kind of think it's weird and creepy and whatever. That's a whole other thing. But it's interesting because his entire channel, and I'm assuming maybe whoever donated money to Josh is doing the same thing, where they basically just go and give money to people and then they film the moments and the reactions and whatnot, and then that builds the content to pay them the money, to allow them to pay the money to people. It's brilliant marketing. Yeah. It's amazing. Like, think about that, because Josh now has made at least 2 videos about getting this money, and other people are going to watch Josh, and it's cool for Josh. I mean, it's good. I'm happy for him. That's not the point. But so more people are watching his content, but people are now going to circle out of his content to whoever it was that gave him the money.
Absolutely.
Like, what a fantastic idea. Yeah. I'm kind of thinking
because I think built into those, right? Whether it's Mr. Beast or this other guy, and I can't remember his name.
Oh, was it Mr. Beast? Did I say Super Beast?
I think he said
Mr. Beast. Okay, yeah.
So Mr. Beast, I think a lot of people will go and kind of, be involved in his channel. It's like the lottery, right? It's like comment, maybe Mr. Beast will drop by my stream, or maybe he'll drop by my channel, or
for sure.
And it's like winning the lottery in a sense. Yeah. I mean, it's good. I mean, for all the stuff that is out on YouTube, something like that where you're going and giving and helping somebody out, even though sometimes it's a little bit on the extreme. Like, I think one time he went and dropped $10,000 on a waitress kind of thing,
right?
And it's maybe a bit
it's a little excessive.
But it's
But if you got the coin,
sure.
I mean, $10,000 could change somebody's life.
It could.
I mean, it's funny because it doesn't seem like that amount of money,
right?
Or that huge an amount of money. And I mean, like, a guy like you or me, even though like we're not making crazy hundreds of thousands of dollars on YouTube, but like, I look at it and I'm like, okay, so if something were to come up and I really felt that I wanted to change somebody, I could with 10 grand. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of appeals to that.
Yeah.
The heartstrings. It pulls on the heartstrings a little bit.
Oh yeah. I mean, in all honesty, if I was making enough, money on YouTube and stuff, I would probably do more community oriented things. That's kind of the thing. I mean, you're not on Facebook, so you probably don't see. You're on Twitter, so you might see a little bit of the collective thing, which I continually kind of, edge towards. It's for me. I've always, I personally like. I like helping educate people, and I like teaching, and I did that in tattooing, I've done it in photography, I've done a whole bunch of things,
right?
So building community is a big thing. So giving back is a big part of that. I think you can't always give dollars and cents. I can't give dollars and cents, but I can give my time, which is
probably more valuable.
Yeah,
actually,
in a lot of ways, and. So I mean, it's always good to do those kind of things. I think the Mr. Beasts are a little more, I don't know the word I'm looking for, a little more dramatic.
Sure, a little more dramatic. Like well, and it's funny too, because I look at it and it's almost a little narcissistic, because it's watch me do this good thing. It's not like I'm doing a good thing because and of course I don't know him, so I'm just looking at it though. But I mean, part of me, the sort of dark, twisted part goes, it's really, he's just doing this to build this following and make money and whatever else.
Yeah.
Because if you look at some of like the titles where it's like, I give $10,000 to pizza delivery drivers, and, and he's really only giving $50 or $100 tips at a time, but he's like filming the whole thing. And part of me, and again, this is probably due to my age and kind of how I grew up. Yeah. But, I was taught like you do good things for people because it's the right thing to do, not because you're going to get an acknowledgement out of it. And I wonder if that feeling is even valid anymore. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I know. And I mean, some people are probably going to, crap on me for what I'm about to say next, but I'm used to that.
Sure. Well, I hope so. Whatever the comments are, good or bad, bring them on, right?
Yeah. We just went through Christmas. We went through New Year's. Yeah. And there's always kind of that plethora of, there's news channels. They'll go out like, hey, we're doing this. This is Operation This. We're building a mountain of toys, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. That's one thing. That's, a completely different thing. They're trying to generate people to give this mountain of toys. They're trying to do a good thing and bring the community together. Yep. But I think sometimes, you see these, I'll call them short B-roll films. It's like, we go hand out sandwiches to the homeless. Right. You can do that without a camera. Yeah. It's, you don't have to, film this stuff. You don't have to necessarily do that stuff. I mean, I used to, I used to go to the tattoo studio and I would buy coffees for certain guys on my route to work, and that's just kind of it. Like, I'm not going to film that stuff. And it's just, you don't have to do that in order for it to be impactful. I think sometimes people think that making a video makes it more impactful, which I agree. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it's a fine line, I think, between saying, hey, look at me, right, and doing a good thing, right. And when it's kind of more like, hey, look at me, that's when I kind of feel like it's like, you did a nice thing, but you kind of get that little cringy kind of
right. Feeling. Well, and that's what I was talking about with the Mr. Beast specifically. I'm like, a little bit of this is like, or whatever. Or there's the guys. I don't even remember his name. They mostly do pranks, but the same kind of thing. Like, they went and they filmed talking to a homeless kid, and they went and bought him a guitar and all this stuff. And I'm kind of like, you could have just done that. Yeah. Why did you have to film it? And like. Yeah. It's weird too, because then it puts that person at a weird place too, right? Like, well, by accepting this gift, I have to appear in your video and like, tell my story to I mean, I don't know. I mean, are we right? Are we wrong?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, right? I think, people wouldn't disagree that sometimes when you watch those things, you're kind of like, really? Yeah. I mean, sometimes they're definitely genuine. Like I said, every year TV goes on, hey, we're doing this. We have toy drives. We do all this kind of stuff. Yeah. But it's not kind of like, hey, look. I mean, it is kind of, hey, look at us. But in a sense, it's.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you got to build buzz. If you're trying to raise a mountain of toys to give to kids at Christmas or whatever.
You've got to do some advertising.
You got to do some advertising. You got to do a bit of look at me to get more people to do that. Although, okay, so now I'm going to do a bit of a tangent here. Okay. There are homeless people. There are wives that their husbands beat them and they got kids and they got to go to a shelter. There are kids with no parents. There are men whose wife beat them and they're not going to talk to anybody because you know what I mean? Like, that's a whole weird shame issue on its own. But all of this shit goes on year round. Yeah. Why are we so focused on giving at Christmas? Why not give all year long? Why not find the thing that you're passionate about and give your time to it 10 hours a month, 5 hours a month, 2 hours a month, or $50 a month, or whatever it happens to be that you can give, but why just at Christmas? Like, it's always struck me as odd because it's such a first world problem kind of thing.
I think it's the Christian guilt, right?
Maybe.
You can't take all these presents in without giving something,
I guess.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's a horrible thing to do.
No, of course not.
And I don't think you're suggesting that either. Myself, like, we don't do a lot at Christmas. We pick our charities throughout the year.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
And it's just kind of, that's what we did because, if you gave money to everybody that asked for money,
you wouldn't have any for yourself.
We'd be living in a cardboard box.
Exactly, yeah.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, we pick ours, and that's kind of it. We just have our budget, and here you go.
Well, and I think the other thing too is, like, so I've been, obviously I'm in a position now where I can give a little more, whether it's time or money, which is amazing, and I'm very lucky, and I'm thankful that I can do that. I get to do that. But I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize, like, if you're 15, you're 16, you're 18, you're 20, you're just starting out, or hell, you're 12, even $5, if that's something that's meaningful for you and that you had to work for, if you're giving it to a charity, whatever the charity happens to be, that's a worthwhile donation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
I think, as a young person, that's looking to, get their jobs and move into the world and stuff like that, volunteer experience is really good. I mean, you can pick an organization, and do stuff, and that can help you in a lot of ways. I mean, and you don't even have to put that in a resume for it to help you.
No.
It can help you build responsibility. It can help you, understand things a little better. It'll give you a different viewpoint. I mean, you can go out and do those things, and you have that kind of time.
For sure.
It might not be high on your priority list.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you do have time, it's definitely helpful.
Yep.
And I mean, I did stuff when I was younger, and I met some good people that helped me out, and it was just kind of going and doing what I wanted to do at that moment. And I mean, it's a good experience, and
for sure,
volunteering is one of those things I think that we could probably do more of, but I think in this day and age too, it's. Time is extremely
tight. Is important, where we're working longer hours than ever before. We're spending less time with our families than before. More time commuting.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to give that time. But I think like I said, if it's an hour or 2 hours a month, or every quarter or whatever it happens to be, a little bit of that can go a long way.
Yeah.
And going back to your point about being a young person and trying to get a job and getting your life, get your poop in a group, as it were. If nothing else, if you want to think of it selfishly, because you're still giving of yourself, so that's a good thing. But you can maybe knock it out by looking at it. But it's a networking opportunity.
Yeah.
You're going to meet people that can help you later on.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily go into it looking like that, but it's going to happen because so and so who is running the warehouse or whatever it happens to be saw you working for the charity and the warehouse and whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, I remember Nick, he's a good kid, I might give him a call, I got a job for him. And you never know where it can lead.
Absolutely.
And that's not, like I said, I don't think that should be the primary reason for doing that kind of stuff.
And I mean,
but
it's sort of luck of the draw. It's absolutely.
The more people you meet and the more people that know you're a good person and or you work hard or you're creative or whatever it happens to be, the better you're off you're going to be in the long run. So that should be a goal in and of itself. Yeah. To circle back to the beginning.
Yeah.
You see what I did there? That was good, right?
It's good. But you've done this before.
Almost, right? But I think and again, I guess it's Nick's boring bucket list, but one of my goals every 6 months is to make sure that I'm giving of myself time and or money, whichever, or sometimes both. Yeah. And you're like yourself, I don't do a lot of Christmas charity stuff because I actually do and give throughout the year. So I
prefer to do that because I feel like, I mean, and again, I'm not pointing fingers and saying the way you're doing is bad by giving. It's just, I think that there's a lot that happens, at that time of year, and that, what we do during the year is probably a little more helpful, especially come, March, April is when we tend to do our first round of donations, right?
Right.
Because, it's a tough time after Christmas, right?
Usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. Exactly. You're catching up on bills and you got to do all the things and whatever else, everything comes due. Tax time, suddenly the government's reaching down into your pocket deeper than they have before, which is now a whole separate podcast idea. But Canada's taxation laws are changing. I don't know if you've read up on this, but it's going to be probably affect what do you call single proprietary businesses, maybe less than small businesses of 2 to 40 or whatever. But they're pretty big tax changes, and fossil fuel taxes are coming up, and carbon tax, what a waste of time and money that is. But anyway,
taxes.
Well, that's it, right? They get you coming and they get you going.
Yeah.
There's only two things in life that are certain. It's what is that? That's that old Jewish aphorism, right? The only two things in life that are guaranteed are death and taxes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's they're going to get their money one way or the other. It's plain and simple. It's just part of the game.
Unless you're a massive corporation and you can afford to set up corporations in tax havens.
Yeah, or you can live somewhere where the tax benefit for you is much greater.
That's true. I mean, if you're able to move to the States, Arizona, they got zero state tax. Right?
Well, it's you know that I'm from Scotland, and
right.
Scotland, it's well taxed. So a lot of people dislike Sean Connery because he basically took up Spanish citizenship. And if you take up citizenship, I can't even say it. Citizenship in Spain, if you have to renounce your citizenship
to the UK.
Yeah. So, he went to Spain for a tax break because obviously he's making a lot of money doing films back then. So a lot of people were kind of like, But it's. I guess if you have the resources
on the flip side, if it were you and you could, I bet you would.
I'm sure you would.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm sure Sean Connery has done a lot of good things with his money. That if he had been taxed more heavily, he wouldn't have been able to do as much.
Maybe he may not have been able to do it.
Yeah. So there you go.
Well, there you go. On that note, how are we on time? I think we're almost at the end of that.
I think we're almost there.
There you go. Well, there you go. Well, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the Dudecast. I'm Nick.
I'm JD.
We'll catch you on the next one.